You checked your pulse 3 times this morning. You Googled that headache again, just to be safe. Somewhere between the doctor's office and your search history, you've spent thousands chasing a diagnosis that was never really about your body. It was about fear. Health anxiety isn't about being dramatic. It's a real pattern where fear of illness quietly takes over decisions, relationships, and bank accounts. Millions of people live inside this cycle without ever naming it. Today, we're naming it gently, honestly, and with real ways forward.
Sign 1. You search your symptoms before you even finish feeling them. A strange twinge in your side sends you straight to your phone, scrolling through forums until 3 in the morning, convincing yourself it's something rare and terrible. Each search is supposed to bring relief, but it never does. It only opens 10 new tabs of worst-case scenarios. This habit quietly costs more than sleep. It costs clarity and calm, and sometimes money, when panic sends you to urgent care for something that was never an emergency. The search bar becomes a loop with no real exit, and every answer just gives birth to 3 new questions. Sign 2. You've become a familiar face at more than one clinic. One doctor says you're fine, but fine doesn't feel like enough, so you book another opinion, and then another, hoping someone will finally say the words that make the fear stop. Each visit brings a small wave of relief that fades within days. The copays add up quietly in the background, while the real question never gets answered. Because the question was never really medical. It was always about needing someone else to hold the fear for you, even for just a moment, even if it costs you hundreds of dollars to hear it.
Sign 3. Your medicine cabinet looks like a small pharmacy, and half of it was never prescribed by anyone. Scans you paid for out of pocket, blood panels you requested just to be sure, supplements bought at midnight because an article promised they'd catch something early. None of it was reckless. It felt responsible, even loving toward your own body. But underneath the receipts is a pattern. Spending money to quiet a fear the tests were never actually built to fully answer. The invoices pile up, and so does the quiet exhaustion of never quite feeling reassured enough to stop.
Sign 4. An ordinary sensation becomes an emergency in your mind within seconds. Your heart beats a little fast after coffee, and suddenly you're picturing hospital rooms instead of finishing your to-do list. A stomach ache turns into a mental timeline of symptoms and worst outcomes before you've even stood up from your chair. This isn't weakness. It's your nervous system reacting to ordinary uncertainty as if it were genuine danger. But living there, moment after moment, is exhausting. It steals focus from work, conversations, and rest, quietly replacing ordinary life with a constant background hum of bracing for something terrible to happen next. Sign 5. You've quietly stopped doing things your body can actually handle. No more hikes, because what if something happens far from help? No more spicy food. No more intense workouts. No more staying out late. All because any strong physical sensation might be mistaken for danger. Life gets smaller, one cautious decision at a time, and you barely notice it happening until years have quietly slipped by. The world you're protecting yourself from shrinks along with the world you actually get to live in, and the safety you're chasing quietly costs you the very life you are trying so hard to protect.
Sign 6, and this is the one most people won't admit. You check your body more than you check in with your life. Pulse, moles, lymph nodes, breathing patterns, counted and recounted throughout the day like a private ritual nobody else sees. It isn't vanity or hypochondria in the cartoonish sense. It's a desperate attempt to catch danger before it catches you. But the checking never actually satisfies the fear. It only feeds it, training your mind to keep scanning for the next thing to worry about, turning your own body into a source of surveillance instead of a home.
Sign 7. Your online cart is full of things promising protection you can't actually buy. Immune boosters, wearable trackers, subscription supplements, a new gadget that promises to catch what doctors supposedly miss. Companies know this fear well, and they profit from it quietly, dressing reassurance up as wellness, one glossy ad at a time. None of these purchases are stupid. They come from a real place of wanting control over something that feels uncontrollable. But month after month, the charges add up to hundreds, sometimes thousands, spent chasing a certainty that no single product was ever actually able to fully deliver.
Sign 8. The people who love you are starting to feel the quiet weight of this too. A partner who's heard, "I think something's wrong," one too many times this month alone. A friend who gently changes the subject the moment health comes up again. You're not doing anything wrong by needing reassurance, but the constant asking slowly wears down the people around you, even when they never say it out loud to your face. And underneath it, you're left feeling more alone with the fear than before, because the one thing you needed most, to truly feel safe, never actually came from someone else's words.
Health anxiety rarely comes out of nowhere. It often grows from moments when your body, or someone else's, felt genuinely out of control. An illness in the family, a scary diagnosis nobody explained well, a time you were dismissed by a doctor when something really was wrong. Your mind learned a lesson from that moment. Stay alert, or you'll be caught off guard again. That vigilance once may have made sense, but your nervous system kept the alarm running long after the danger passed, treating ordinary sensations today as if they carry the same weight as that original fear once did.
The cost of living this way is rarely just financial, though the bills are real. It's the mental energy spent scanning your body instead of being present in your day. It's the joy quietly drained out of dinners, trips, and ordinary mornings, because part of you is always braced for something to go wrong. It's the exhaustion of never fully relaxing, even when every test comes back clear. Over time, this wears down more than your wallet. It wears down your sense of trust in your own body, and that loss is harder to measure, but just as real.
So what actually helps? Start by naming the pattern out loud, even just to yourself. This is health anxiety, not proof of danger. Set boundaries with searching. One honest question to a trusted doctor instead of 40 tabs at midnight. Notice the urge to check your body and gently delay it by 5 minutes, then 10, teaching your nervous system that the alarm can pass without you obeying it. Therapy, especially approaches built for anxiety, can help retrain this response at its root. None of this erases the fear overnight, but each small choice weakens its grip a little more.
Here's the part that matters most. This pattern can genuinely soften over time. It doesn't require becoming a different person, just slowly teaching your body that it's allowed to feel a strange sensation, without that meaning catastrophe is coming. People who've lived deep inside health anxiety have found their way to calmer, freer days, not because every fear disappeared completely, but because they stopped needing total certainty
to feel safe. Progress here isn't a straight line, and that's completely normal. Some days the fear will be loud again. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human and still quietly moving forward. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself honestly, when did you last feel truly at ease in your own body without scanning it for danger? What would you do with your time, your energy, and your money if that fear took up noticeably less space in your everyday life? You don't need a perfect answer right now, and you don't need to rush toward one. Just noticing the question is already a small act of turning toward yourself with curiosity instead of judgment. And that shift, small as it seems in this moment, is often exactly where real change quietly begins. Let's bring it all together. Endless searching, doctor hopping, unnecessary tests, catastrophizing normal sensations, avoiding life just to stay safe, constant body checking, chasing products that promise certainty, and quietly straining the people who love you most. 8 signs, but really just one shared root, a nervous system trying desperately, exhaustingly, to protect you from uncertainty it can't fully control. None of it makes you weak or dramatic, no matter what anyone has told you. It makes you someone who's been carrying a heavy kind of vigilance, often for years, usually without anyone ever teaching you a gentler way to hold it. If this video described more of your life than you expected, you're really not alone in this. So many people watching right now recognize themselves in at least one of these 8 signs. Tell me in the comments which one hit closest to home for you, or quietly share this with someone who checks their pulse a little too often for their own good. And if you want more honest, judgment-free conversations about the psychology behind our money, our fears, and our everyday choices, subscribe. There's a lot more we can gently unpack together in the videos ahead.
You don't need to have this all figured out today, or even this entire year. Awareness is already the first real step out of the loop, quieter and far more powerful than it probably feels right now. Be patient with yourself, the same way you'd be patient with someone you deeply love, someone who's simply doing their best with a mind that's trying, in its own exhausting way, to keep them safe from harm. Thank you so much for spending this time here with me today. Take gentle care of yourself, and I'll genuinely see you in the next one.
You think you know your spouse's every move, every bill, every account, every decision made together, side by side. But right now, hidden behind trust and years of marriage, there might be a secret account, a hidden debt, a truth you've never been told.
Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what financial betrayal looks like, even when it's disguised as love, as protection, as "I didn't want to worry you." And you'll finally understand if it's happening in your own marriage right now. Financial infidelity isn't about a missing dollar here or there. It's about secrecy. One partner building a private life with money, while the other believes they're building it together. Psychologists say it can hurt as deeply as an affair. Here are 8 signs it might be happening to you. Sign 1. There's a bank account you weren't supposed to find. Maybe it slipped out during tax season. Maybe you noticed a banking app on their phone, tucked into a folder, notifications turned off. When you ask, the answer comes too fast, too smooth. "Oh, that's just an old one. It's basically empty."
But here's the thing. People don't hide empty accounts. They hide the ones that matter. In a healthy marriage, money moves in the light. In a marriage carrying financial infidelity, it moves in the shadows, one hidden account at a time, until the whole picture stops making sense.
Sign 2. They said the credit card was almost at zero, but the statement you found tells a different story, one with a much bigger number attached. So you ask, gently, giving them room to explain. And instead of a straight answer, you get a story. A car repair, a friend in trouble, something urgent, something believable. But every time you ask again, a small detail changes. In a healthy marriage, a money mistake gets a quick, slightly embarrassed correction. In this kind of marriage, the story only grows more complicated the more you ask, because it was never a memory problem. It's a cover-up, still in progress.
Sign 3. Money came in that you never saw. A bonus, a freelance payment, a refund from a return you didn't know about. You only find out weeks later, almost by accident, and when you bring it up, it's brushed off as no big deal, or I forgot to mention it. But grown adults don't forget thousands of dollars. What actually happens is a private financial life quietly forming on the side, income routed around the shared picture instead of into it. And the scariest part isn't the money itself, it's realizing you have no idea how much else you haven't been told.
Sign 4. A decision that affects both of you gets made by only one of you. An investment, a loan co-signed for a relative, a large purchase that shows up as a done deal, not a conversation. When you ask why you weren't included, you hear, "I didn't want to bother you with it," as if your name isn't on the same accounts, the same future. But partnership means shared decisions, not shared consequences for choices you never got to weigh in on. When one person quietly takes the wheel on money, the other isn't a spouse anymore in that moment. They're a passenger who doesn't know the destination. There are a few more important signs ahead, but if this resonates with you, subscribe to Mind Patterns so you don't miss our upcoming breakdowns on psychology and mental health.
Sign 5. Any conversation about money turns into a fight before it even really starts. You ask a simple question: how much is left in savings? What did that charge come from? And suddenly, you're the one being accused of not trusting them, of always making it a big deal. The subject changes, the tone shifts. You end up apologizing just to keep the peace, even though you never got your answer. That defensiveness isn't really about you at all. It's a wall built to protect something specific, and every time it goes up, it teaches you not to ask again, which is exactly the point.
Sign 6. The numbers you're told and the life you're living don't match. You're told money is tight, tight enough to skip the family trip, tight enough to argue about groceries, and yet somehow there's a new gadget, unexplained cash for just something I wanted, expensive habits that never touch the shared budget at all. When you point out the gap, it gets minimized. It's not that much. I earned it. I can spend it how I want. Maybe, but in a marriage built on shared finances, a separate spending life running quietly underneath the official story isn't really about the money. It's about which version of the truth you're allowed to see.
Sign 7. You find out you're in debt you never agreed to. A loan taken out in both your names. A credit line opened using your shared address, your shared history, without your signature ever really meaning anything. Sometimes it comes out through a phone call from a collector. Sometimes it's a letter that lands on the counter with your name on it for an account you've never seen before. This is where financial infidelity stops being just secrecy and becomes something closer to theft, because your future got spent without your consent. And no apology afterward changes the fact that the decision was never really yours to make.
Sign 8. The hidden money isn't just hidden, it's connected to another person. An ex-partner still being supported. A family member receiving quiet, unexplained transfers for years. Sometimes, in the hardest cases, it's tied to a relationship that shouldn't exist at all. Financial infidelity walking hand in hand with emotional infidelity. When this surfaces, it rarely feels like a single betrayal. It feels like discovering an entire second life that was running in parallel to your own, funded quietly, invisibly, out of resources you believed belonged only to your family. This is the sign that makes people question not just the money, but every year that came before it. Here's what makes financial infidelity so hard to catch. It rarely starts as a lie. It usually starts small. One purchase not mentioned, one uncomfortable conversation avoided instead of had. Therapists say it often comes from fear, not malice. Fear of judgment, fear of conflict, fear of admitting a mistake with money. But avoidance left unchecked has a way of growing teeth. What begins as, "I just didn't want to upset them," slowly becomes a structure of ongoing secrecy, one small omission stacked on another, until an entire parallel financial life is standing quietly behind the marriage everyone can see.
If you're recognizing these signs, what you're feeling right now probably isn't just anger. It's disorientation, the strange, dizzying sensation of realizing the story you believed about your own life wasn't entirely true. You start replaying old conversations, wondering what else was carefully worded. You start doubting your own memory, your own judgment, asking yourself how you missed it. That reaction is normal. Financial infidelity doesn't just cost money, it costs certainty, the basic sense that you know the person lying beside you at night. And that particular kind of grief, the grief of a story rewritten, deserves to be taken seriously.
So what do you actually do with this? First, gather facts before you gather feelings. Bank statements, credit reports, anything factual you're legally entitled to see, so the conversation starts from truth, not assumption. Second, choose a calm moment, not the heat of discovery, to say plainly what you found and how it made you feel. Third, consider bringing in a financial therapist or couples counselor, someone trained specifically in money and trust, not just relationships in general. This isn't about punishment. It's about finding out whether the secrecy was a single mistake or a pattern, because those two things call for very different next steps.
Here's the part that matters just as much. Not every one of these signs means the marriage is over, and not every hidden purchase is a betrayal in the making. Sometimes people hide money out of shame, not deception. Old wounds from a childhood where money meant conflict, or a fear of being controlled. Context matters. A single hidden splurge is not the same as a second bank account running for years. Many couples do rebuild trust after financial infidelity, but only when both people are willing to be fully seen. The one who hid, and the one asking to finally understand why.
Take a moment and be honest with yourself. Of the 8 signs we just walked through, how many felt uncomfortably familiar? Was it one small thing, easy to explain away? Or was it several, stacking together into a pattern you've been quietly ignoring because naming it felt too frightening?
There's no shame in either answer. Recognizing a pattern isn't the same as deciding what to do about it yet. It's simply the first honest look you've allowed yourself to take. And that honesty, uncomfortable as it is right now, is usually the first real step toward whatever comes next.
Let's bring it together. The 8 signs, a hidden account you weren't meant to find, a story about money that keeps shifting, income that quietly disappears, big decisions made without you, defensiveness whenever money comes up, a lifestyle that doesn't match the numbers you're told, debt you never agreed to, and money secretly tied to someone else entirely. None of these on their own is proof of betrayal, but together, as a pattern, they tell a story about secrecy, about a private life growing inside a shared one. And now, you're equipped to actually see it.
If any of this hit close to home, you're not alone, and you don't have to sit with it in silence. Tell us in the comments which sign surprised you the most, or which one you've quietly suspected for a while. This channel exists for exactly these conversations, the ones people don't usually say out loud. If this video helped you see something more clearly, subscribe, because we cover the psychology behind money, trust, and relationships every single week. And if someone in your life needs to hear this today, send it to them. Sometimes the hardest truths are easier to hear from a stranger first.
Financial infidelity isn't about the dollar amount. It's about the distance secrecy creates between two people who chose to build a life together. Whatever you're carrying after watching this, take it seriously, take it slowly, and take care of yourself. Thank you for watching. You pray, you wait, you trust the plan, and somehow nothing changes. Not because faith is wrong, but because somewhere along the way, you stopped being the one making decisions about your own life. And you might not even realize it's happening. We're going to look at 8 specific signs, not to judge your beliefs, but to show you exactly where the line is between genuine faith and quietly handing your life over to something else to manage for you.
Psychologists call it external locus of control, the belief that forces outside you determine what happens in your life. It's not unique to religion, but faith can become one of its most comfortable hiding places because it feels noble, it feels humble, it feels safe.
The first sign is this: you make decisions by waiting for a sign instead of thinking them through. Not occasionally, habitually. A job offer comes. Instead of sitting down and asking yourself what you actually want, you wait. You look for signals, a dream, a coincidence, a feeling that the universe confirmed it. And if no sign comes, you don't decide at all. Here's what's really happening underneath that. Making decisions means accepting that you could be wrong, that you carry the outcome, that it's yours. Waiting for a sign transfers that weight somewhere else. It feels like faith, but it functions like avoidance.
The second sign: when something goes wrong in your life, your first move is to find meaning in it rather than find a solution. This happened for a reason. God is testing me. The universe is redirecting me. These phrases aren't always wrong. Sometimes meaning genuinely helps us survive hard things. But notice when meaning becomes a substitute for action. When you spend more energy interpreting your suffering than changing the conditions causing it. That's the pattern. Not the belief itself, but the function it's serving. It's keeping you still, comfortable inside the story, disconnected from your own agency.
Sign 3 is quieter. It lives in your inner voice. You've stopped saying, I want, or I've decided. You say, if it's meant to be, whatever is destined, if God wills it. And it sounds humble. It sounds peaceful even. But listen more carefully to what it's replacing. Because if it's meant to be, often means, I'm afraid to want this openly and be disappointed. Surrendering desire to fate is sometimes genuine spiritual practice, but sometimes it's a way to protect yourself from the pain of trying and failing. If you never claimed it, you never really lost it. That's not peace, that's armor.
The 4th sign shows up in your relationship with guilt and self-correction. When you do something that hurts someone or hurts yourself, your process is confess, pray, ask forgiveness, feel absolved, and then move on without actually examining what drove the behavior, without changing the conditions that produced it. Spiritual forgiveness is real and it matters, but psychological change requires something different. It requires you to sit with the uncomfortable question of why you did it, what need was underneath it, what pattern keeps producing this moment. If the ritual of forgiveness replaces that inquiry, nothing actually changes, just resets, again and again.
Sign 5. Your goals live permanently in the future, protected by divine timing. It'll happen when the time is right. God hasn't opened that door yet, and years pass. This is one of the most seductive patterns because it feels like patience, like trust, like maturity even. But real patience is active. You're building, preparing, moving towards something while you wait. What this sign describes is stillness dressed as patience. The goal stays safe in the future because in the future it can't fail, it can't disappoint, it can't demand anything from you right now. Divine timing becomes a place to store dreams you're afraid to touch. We're halfway through, and if something has already landed for you, if you've recognized a pattern you live inside, that recognition matters. That's not nothing. The goal of this video has never been to take something away from you. Faith, meaning, prayer, these are real, and they serve real human needs. The question we're sitting with is more specific than that. Who is the author of your life? Who holds the pen when a decision has to be made? Who accepts the outcome, good or bad, as something they participated in creating? Hold that question. We've got 4 more signs to go.
The 6th sign. You feel deeply uncomfortable, sometimes even guilty, about taking direct, deliberate action to change your circumstances. Not laziness, something more specific than that. A feeling that wanting too much is arrogant, that planning too carefully means you don't trust the plan, that pushing forward is somehow spiritually wrong. So you hold back. You soften your ambition. You wait to be given rather than going to get. This often comes from communities that framed human desire as dangerous, ambition as sin, self-sufficiency as pride. But there's a profound difference between ego-driven grasping and simply taking responsibility for your own life. That difference matters enormously.
Sign 7 is relational. When people in your life cause you pain, a partner, a parent, a friend, your framework tells you to forgive, endure, and trust that God will handle it. And again, Forgiveness has genuine power. Endurance builds real character. But notice when this framework makes it impossible to set a boundary, to leave, to say this is not acceptable. Because if everything is in God's hands, your job is just to suffer well and wait. That's not faith. That's learned helplessness wearing spiritual language. You are allowed to act on your own behalf. That's not a lack of faith. That is being human.
The eighth sign is the most fundamental one. When you imagine your future, your real future, 5 or 10 years from now, the primary variable is not what you will do, it's what will happen to you. You see yourself receiving or being denied, blessed or not blessed, guided toward or away from. You are the object in the story, not the subject. This is the core of external locus of control, life as something that happens to you rather than something you participate in building. And it shapes everything: your ambition, your relationships, your willingness to try, your capacity to recover when things go wrong.
Here's the deeper psychology underneath all 8 of these signs. External locus of control, the belief that external forces run your life, is strongly linked in research to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and helplessness. Not because faith causes those things, but because when we remove ourselves from the equation of our own lives, we lose the one thing that actually protects our mental health: the felt sense that our actions matter, that what we do changes what happens next, that we are not just passengers. The research on this is consistent across cultures, across decades. Agency isn't arrogance. It's one of the deepest psychological needs a human being has.
And underneath all of this, if we're honest, is usually one thing: fear. Not laziness, not weakness, not a character flaw. Fear that if you take the wheel, you might crash it. Fear that your judgment isn't good enough, that you'll want the wrong things, that you'll try and fail and have no one to blame but yourself. Handing the wheel to something larger than you is, at its root, an act of self-protection. It makes complete sense that humans do this. The pain isn't in the impulse. The pain is in what you lose when you stay there too long.
So what do you actually do with this? You don't rip faith out of your life. You don't become a cold, calculating machine. You start small. You start with one decision, and you own it completely. You make it with the information you have. You accept that you might be wrong, and you don't look for a sign to confirm it. You practice saying, "I decided," instead of "it was meant to be." You practice sitting with the discomfort of authorship, because that discomfort, that weight of "this is mine," is exactly what builds the psychological muscle that changes everything else. It grows. Slowly, steadily. It grows.
Let's be clear about something important. Faith and agency are not enemies. Some of the most psychologically grounded people on earth hold deep spiritual beliefs and take fierce personal responsibility for their lives simultaneously. They pray and they act. They trust and they decide. They surrender outcomes while fully owning their effort. That integration is real. It's possible. It's actually the healthiest version of what faith was probably always meant to be. What we've been talking about today isn't faith itself. It's a specific psychological pattern available to religious and non-religious people alike that uses belief as a reason not to show up for your own life.
Before we close, I want to give you one question. Not 8, just one. Think about the area of your life where you feel most stuck, most stagnant, the place where things just aren't moving. Now ask yourself honestly, in that area, are you the one making moves, or are you waiting? Not resting, not recovering, waiting. Waiting for clarity that never quite arrives, for the right moment, for permission from something outside you. That waiting, however it's dressed, is the thing. You don't need more signs. You don't need more confirmation. You have enough information right now to take one step. Just one.
Let's bring it together. 8 signs that you may have handed responsibility for your life to a higher power instead of yourself. 1. Making decisions only when you receive a sign. 2. Finding meaning instead of finding solutions. 3. Erasing your own desire behind words like, if it's meant to be. 4. Using spiritual forgiveness as a substitute for psychological change. 5. Storing your goals in divine timing instead of building toward them. 6. Feeling guilty for wanting and acting deliberately. 7. Enduring harmful relationships because intervention feels spiritually wrong. 8. Seeing yourself as the object of your life, not the author. If something in this video described a pattern you recognize in yourself or someone you love, leave a comment. You don't have to have it figured out. You don't need the answer. Just name the sign that hit closest. That's enough. Because one of the most powerful things about seeing a pattern clearly is realizing you're not alone in it. Other people live inside this too. Other people are finding their way out. If this video gave you something real, share it with one person. And subscribe if you want more psychology that actually touches the real stuff. We go deep here, every time. Your life is yours, not because no higher power exists, but because you are the one living it. Every day, every choice, every consequence. That's not a burden. That's the whole point. Take care of yourself.
You walk into a home where every surface gleams, every pillow sits at a perfect angle, not a single thing out of place. And you think, what a calm person must live here. But what if that spotless home isn't peace at all? What if it's something else, hiding in plain sight?
Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand the real psychology behind that need for cleanliness. These 10 signs go far beyond tidiness. They reveal what's actually happening underneath, in the mind of someone who can't rest until everything is in order.
For some people, a clean home isn't about appearances at all. It's survival. It's the one place where life finally feels manageable. If you've ever felt that pull, that need to fix, to scrub, to arrange, this isn't a flaw. It's your mind trying to tell you something important. The first sign is simple. They need control. Life outside that front door can feel unpredictable, messy, sometimes completely out of their hands. Bills, relationships, work, things they can't fix no matter how hard they try. But the kitchen counter, that they can fix. The folded towels, the swept floor, the dishes put away. Every small task becomes proof that something, anywhere, is under control. It's not vanity. It's a quiet way of saying, I can manage at least this much. And in a world that often feels chaotic, that small sense of order can feel like the only steady ground beneath their feet.
The second sign is how they use cleaning to process anxiety. Watch closely and you'll notice the messier their mind feels, the more they clean. It's not random. Scrubbing a counter, organizing a shelf, wiping down a table. These repetitive motions calm a nervous system that won't quiet down on its own. Their hands move so their thoughts can slow. It's almost meditative, a physical outlet for emotions that have nowhere else to go. So if you've ever seen someone clean furiously after a stressful day, understand this. They're not just tidying a room. They're trying to settle a storm happening inside them.
The third sign goes back further than most people realize. Childhood. Maybe they grew up in a home where mess meant trouble, where a messy room brought criticism, or worse, where chaos in the house mirrored chaos between the people who raised them. So they learned early, if everything looks fine, maybe everything is fine. Cleanliness became a kind of armor, a way to keep peace, to avoid conflict, to feel a little safer in an unpredictable environment. Now, decades later, that same instinct still runs quietly underneath their behavior. It's not really about dust or clutter. It's an old, familiar attempt to protect themselves the only way they once knew how.
The fourth sign is harder to admit. They equate mess with personal failure. A pile of dishes isn't just dishes to them. It can feel like proof they're falling behind, that they're not doing enough, that they're somehow failing at life itself. This isn't logical, but anxiety rarely is. So they push themselves to keep everything spotless, partly to avoid that crushing feeling of inadequacy. The harsh part is, this standard is often impossibly high, set not by anyone around them, but by an inner voice that's been criticizing them for years. And no amount of cleaning ever fully satisfies a voice like that.
The fifth sign is something deeper than habit. It gives them a real sense of safety. A clean, ordered space can feel like a shelter from an unpredictable world. When everything has its place, their nervous system can finally exhale. It's the difference between walking into chaos and walking into calm. For someone who carries a lot of stress, that feeling matters more than most people understand. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about creating one small corner of life where they can breathe freely, where nothing demands anything from them, where for a few quiet minutes, they finally feel safe.
But here's where it gets harder to look at, because the next 5 signs aren't just about comfort anymore. They show what happens when that need for order quietly takes over everything: relationships, rest, even how they see themselves. And the next one might hit closer to home than you expect. There are a few more important signs ahead, but if this resonates with you, subscribe to Mind Patterns so you don't miss our upcoming breakdowns on psychology and mental health.
The sixth sign is one of the most overlooked. They use cleaning to numb emotions they don't know how to face. Grief, loneliness, frustration, sadness they can't quite name. Instead of sitting with those feelings, they scrub a sink, reorganize a closet, fold laundry that didn't need folding. It keeps their hands busy and their mind distracted, just enough to avoid what's underneath. It works for a while. The house stays immaculate, but the feelings never actually go anywhere. They just get pushed further down. And eventually, no matter how clean the surfaces are, the emotions they've been avoiding find a way to surface anyway.
The seventh sign is about identity. Somewhere along the way, they became known as the reliable one, the organized one, the person who always has it together. And that reputation became part of who they are. So an untidy home doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels like a threat to that identity. If the house falls apart, what does that say about them? This pressure is exhausting because it means they're rarely allowed to simply rest, to let things sit, to be human and imperfect. Their environment has quietly become tied to their self-worth, and that's a heavy thing to carry every single day. The eighth sign is the fear of being judged. They imagine someone walking in unannounced, glancing around, silently forming an opinion about them based on a stack of unopened mail or a sink with one dirty cup. So they clean, partly for themselves, but also as a kind of armor against criticism that may never even come. It's exhausting to live as though you're always being evaluated, always one mess away from disapproval. And the saddest part is, most people who walk into their home aren't judging at all. The harshest critic in the room is almost always the person who lives there. The ninth sign is more positive than the others. For some, a clean home is simply an act of self-respect. They've learned that the space they live in affects how they feel, so they take care of it the way they take care of themselves. Clean sheets, an organized desk, a clear kitchen counter. These aren't about perfection. They're a quiet form of self-care, the way of saying, I deserve to live somewhere that feels good. When it comes from this place, cleanliness isn't anxiety in disguise. It's simply someone honoring their own peace, their own comfort, their own sense of dignity. And the 10th sign reaches all the way back to how they were loved as children. Maybe approval in their home came easiest when their room was clean, when they didn't cause trouble, when everything looked just right. So somewhere deep down, order became tangled up with being loved, being accepted, being enough. As adults, that pattern doesn't just disappear. A messy house can still trigger an old, almost forgotten fear that if things fall apart, so does the affection they worked so hard to earn. It's not really about cleanliness at all. It's about a child who once learned that being good meant being tidy. When you put these 10 signs side by side, a clear picture forms. This isn't really about dust or clutter. It's about control, safety, identity, and old wounds that never fully healed. For some people, cleaning is calm. For others, it's quiet anxiety wearing a very tidy disguise. The line between healthy habit and emotional coping can be thin, and most people never stop to examine which side of that line they're standing on. Understanding this doesn't mean judging anyone for keeping a clean home. It means recognizing that behind every habit, there's usually a much deeper, much more human story. And if any of this felt familiar, take a breath, because this can bring up a lot. Maybe you recognized your mother in sign 3. Maybe you recognized yourself in sign 6 or sign 8. There's no shame in that.
These patterns formed because at some point they helped someone survive something difficult: an unstable home, an anxious mind, a fear of not being enough. They were never weaknesses. They were solutions, even if imperfect ones. Acknowledging that doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're finally seeing clearly something that's been quietly shaping your life for a very long time.
So what can you actually do with this? Start by noticing, without judgment, when you reach for a cloth or a broom. Ask yourself gently, am I cleaning because I want to, or because I'm avoiding something underneath? If it's the second one, try sitting with that feeling for just a few minutes before you start tidying. Let the house stay imperfect while you check in with yourself instead. Over time, that small pause builds awareness, and awareness is what turns an automatic reaction into an actual choice. You don't have to stop cleaning. You just deserve to know why you're really doing it.
And here's the nuance worth holding on to. A clean home isn't a problem. Caring about your space is healthy, even beautiful. The goal was never to feel guilty for liking order. It's to make sure that order is something you choose, not something controlling you. There's a real difference between tidying because it brings peace and tidying because chaos feels unbearable. Once you understand that difference, you get to decide for yourself, with compassion instead of pressure. Healing doesn't mean letting the house fall apart. It means finally giving yourself permission to rest, even when something is out of place.
Take a moment right now and ask yourself honestly, which of these 10 signs felt the most familiar? Was it the need for control, the fear of judgment, or maybe that old belief that love had to be earned through order? There's no right answer here, only an honest one. Sit with whatever came up, even if it's uncomfortable. Self-awareness always starts with a small, quiet moment like this one. Just you being truthful with yourself about a pattern you may have carried for years without ever fully understanding where it came from.
Let's bring it all together. Control over chaos, anxiety processed through cleaning, patterns learned in childhood, mess tied to failure, the need for safety, numbing difficult emotions, identity built around being put together, fear of judgment, self-respect, and order once equated with love. 10 different threads, all leading back to the same truth. The way someone keeps their home often reflects the way they're keeping themselves together. Sometimes it's healthy. Sometimes it's a quiet cry for control in a life that feels uncontrollable. Either way, it deserves understanding instead of judgment. Because behind every spotless room, there's almost always a very human story.
If you recognized yourself, or maybe someone you love, in any of these 10 signs, tell us which one in the comments below. It might help someone else feel less alone today. And if this video gave you a little more understanding of yourself, consider subscribing, because we explore the quiet psychology behind everyday behavior every single week. Thank you for spending this time with us. Be gentle with yourself this week. Whether your space is spotless or a little messy, you're allowed to simply be human. We'll see you in the next video.
You work hard. You think about money constantly. And yet, no matter how much you earn, no matter how carefully you plan, there's always this feeling that it's not enough, that one wrong move and everything falls apart. You call it responsibility, but what if it's fear? Today, we are talking about 8 signs that fear, not logic, not strategy, is the real force behind how you earn, spend, and save. Because until you see fear clearly, you can't make genuinely free financial decisions, and you deserve to.
Stay until sign number 6, because that one looks exactly like financial responsibility. Everyone around you probably calls it a virtue. Your family might even be proud of it. But underneath it, there's something else entirely.
Money is never just money. From the moment we understand that some people have more and some have less, money becomes tangled with safety, with love, with self-worth, with survival itself. Psychologists consistently find that most financial decisions aren't made from logic. They're made from emotion, from memory, from the nervous system's attempt to recreate safety in a world that once felt uncertain. Fear-based financial behavior shows up everywhere, in people who grew up with nothing, in people who watched plenty disappear, in people who simply absorbed a parent's anxiety about money like a second language. And here's what makes it so hard to see. Fear-based decisions often look like wisdom. They look like discipline. They look like exactly what a responsible adult is supposed to do. The difference is what's underneath, whether you're moving towards something or running from something. Let's look at the 8 signs.
Sign number 1. You set a financial goal. You reach it, and instead of feeling secure, you immediately move the target. It used to be, if I just had 10,000 saved, I'd feel okay. Then 20, then 50. And at each threshold, the safety you expected didn't arrive, or arrived for a moment, then evaporated. This is one of the clearest signatures of fear-based thinking, because fear doesn't have a number. Fear is not a math problem that gets solved when the equation balances. Fear is a nervous system state, and a nervous system running on fear will find the threat, regardless of what the account balance says. This is why some of the most financially anxious people you'll ever meet are objectively wealthy. The number changed, the fear didn't, because the fear was never really about the number. If security always lives just slightly beyond where you currently are, that is not ambition. That is a nervous system that hasn't yet learned the danger it was preparing for has passed.
Sign number 2. You don't check your bank account. You don't open certain bills immediately. You have a general sense of your finances, but a specific, accurate picture, that you avoid. This might seem like the opposite of sign 1, but it comes from the exact same place: fear. For some, fear drives hypervigilance, constant checking. For others, it drives avoidance. If I don't look directly at it, the worst won't be confirmed. Both are fear responses. Both are the nervous system managing something that feels threatening. Avoidance is particularly costly because the stories we tell ourselves in the absence of real information are almost always worse than reality. The bill we don't open grows larger in imagination than on the page. The balance we don't check becomes a source of ambient dread rather than a manageable fact. Fear keeps you looking away from the very information to reduce the fear. That is its particular cruelty with money. Sign number 3. When financial anxiety spikes, you spend. Not because you've planned to, but because the brief hit of agency, pleasure, control temporarily quiets the fear. And when the fear is loudest, anything that quiets it feels like relief. This gets labeled as irresponsibility, weakness, lack of discipline, and the person caught in it usually agrees, which adds shame to the anxiety, which makes the next impulsive purchase more likely. But what's actually happening is a regulation strategy. The nervous system is overwhelmed and reaching for something that produces a temporary sense of okayness. The particularly painful irony: spending to escape financial anxiety creates more financial pressure, which creates more anxiety, which creates more spending. The fear generates the very conditions that seem to justify it.
Sign number 4. You are worth more than you charge. You know this. And yet, when it comes to asking for more, negotiating your salary, raising your rates, something stops you. The story might be, I don't want to seem greedy. I'm not sure I'm worth it. What if they say no? But underneath each of those stories is fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being seen as too much. Fear of losing the opportunity and being left with nothing. For many people, this traces directly to early experiences of scarcity, where asking for more felt genuinely dangerous, where taking up space had consequences. And so the adult version of that child continues to shrink their financial ask to a size that feels safe, a size that protects, even while it limits. Under-earning is rarely about skill. It is almost always about what the nervous system believes it's safe to claim.
We're halfway through, and if you've recognized yourself in any of these first 4 signs, what's coming next goes even deeper. The next 4 signs are the ones that hide most successfully behind the language of virtue, of prudence, of simply being good with money. Sign number 6 especially. The people closest to you probably see it as one of your best qualities.
Sign number 5. You earn money, you save it responsibly, and when the moment comes to actually use it on something that would bring genuine pleasure or ease, you can't. The vacation planned but never taken. The thing that sits in a cart and never gets purchased. The experience you talk yourself out of with calculations about what else that money could be doing. You've earned this. By any reasonable measure, this spending is fine, and yet it feels wrong, wasteful, dangerous, like exactly the kind of move that will be punished later. Genuine financial wisdom includes the ability to use money for the quality of life it's meant to support. Fear-based frugality cannot distinguish between reckless spending and deserved enjoyment. To fear, all spending feels like risk. A life where money can be earned but never truly enjoyed is not financial freedom. It is a more comfortable version of scarcity.
Sign number 6, and this is the one that looks most like a virtue. You save aggressively. Your emergency fund is significantly larger than any rational emergency would require. You live well below your means, not as a chosen lifestyle, but because spending feels inherently unsafe. People around you admire this. Your family calls you responsible. But notice the feeling underneath. Not the behavior, the feeling. Is it peace, genuine security, present regardless of external circumstances? Or is it relief, the temporary, fragile relief of having enough buffer that today feels survivable, while knowing the threat is always coming?
There is a profound difference between saving from abundance, from choice, and saving from terror, from the conviction that disaster is coming and money is the only thing standing between you and devastation. One is financial wisdom. The other is fear calling itself wisdom and doing an excellent impression.
Sign number 7. You know what your colleagues earn. You notice what your friends spend. You track with remarkable precision where you sit in the financial landscape of people around you. And depending on what you find, you feel brief relief at being ahead or acute discomfort at being behind. Neither feeling lasts. Neither is actually about money. Financial comparison is a fear response, the nervous system trying to answer an unanswerable question: am I safe? And in the absence of a clear internal answer, it reaches for an external reference point. The problem is that comparison never resolves the underlying anxiety, because it's not actually about money. It's about worth, about the deeply human fear of not being enough in the attempt to use financial data to answer a question it was never designed to answer. The fear simply finds a new comparison point and begins again. Sign number 8. When a significant financial opportunity presents itself, an investment, a business idea, a career change, your first and most persistent response is not excitement, it is dread. Not careful consideration, dread. The visceral sense that this is dangerous, that the right move is to stay exactly where you are, even if where you are is limiting you. This shows up as analysis paralysis, researching endlessly, unable to move, or as immediate rejection of any option involving risk, even intelligent, calculated, life-improving risk. The result is a financial life that stays within the boundaries of what fear has decided is survivable. Fear does not account for opportunity. Fear does not account for growth. Fear does not account for the cost of never trying, which is its own kind of loss, silent and cumulative. A financial life lived within the boundaries of fear is smaller than the one you are capable of, not because you lack intelligence, but because fear has been making decisions that were never actually yours to make. Financial fear is not irrational. For many people, those who grew up with genuine scarcity, who watched parents struggle or lose everything, financial fear was a completely appropriate response to a real situation. The nervous system that learned to be vigilant about money learned that because vigilance was necessary. This is not a character flaw. This is an adaptation, an intelligent response to a real environment. The question that matters now, is this response still serving me, or is it limiting a life that the original fear was trying to protect? For most people, the honest answer is both. The vigilance that protected you also constrains you. The saving that kept you safe also keeps you from living fully. The caution that served you in genuine scarcity is now applied to situations that are no longer scarce. Seeing this clearly is not about criticizing your past responses. It is about asking whether the same responses belong in your present.
Fear-based financial behavior is exhausting, not just financially, but psychologically, physically, relationally. The constant vigilance takes energy. The inability to enjoy what you've earned takes joy. The comparison takes presence. The avoidance takes peace. The under-earning takes the quiet dignity of being paid what you're worth. And often, none of this is visible from the outside. You appear responsible, more together than most people around you. But inside, the relationship with money never rests, never allows the genuine okayness that all the earning and saving and vigilance was supposed to eventually produce. That cost is real. It deserves to be named, because unnamed costs continue to be paid without question, and you have been paying this one, possibly for a very long time.
So what do you do? First, recognize this is not a money problem. It's a nervous system problem that shows up in money. More budgeting apps and saving strategies won't fix it. The root is not in the spreadsheet. Second, get curious about the origin. When did money first feel unsafe? What did you learn early on about what money meant, about danger, about survival? Just a little honest curiosity about where the fear began. Third, practice small acts of financial agency that are not fear-driven. Check your account when calm. Make one spending decision based on genuine enjoyment. Negotiate one thing you would normally have accepted without asking. Fourth, if these patterns run deep, consider working with a therapist who understands the psychology of money, or a financial therapist, a growing field working at exactly this intersection. And fifth, be patient. You won't think your way out of fear-based financial behavior. You'll gradually act your way into different patterns, and your nervous system will learn from the experience, not from understanding the logic.
The relationship between fear and financial behavior is not fixed. It changes with awareness, with time, with the right support. People who grew up in profound financial scarcity do learn to feel genuinely secure, not because they reach a certain number, but because they change what security means to them internally. People who spent decades under-earning do learn to ask for what they're worth, and find that people say yes more often than fear predicted. The nervous system is not a life sentence. It is a learning system, and it can learn that it is safe to enjoy what you've earned, safe to invest, safe to claim the financial life you've actually built. The fear that has been running your financial decisions is not stronger than your capacity to make different ones. It has simply had more practice.
Before we close, one quiet question. Think about the financial decision you've been putting off, the ask you haven't made, the account you haven't opened, the investment you've been researching for 2 years without moving. And ask yourself, honestly, without judgment, is this caution or is this fear? You'll know the difference. Caution considers the facts and moves carefully. Fear considers the facts and still can't move, because the immobility was never really about the facts. If it's fear, that's not a moral failing. That is information. That is your nervous system telling you something about where it needs more safety, more support, more time. You don't have to make the decision today, but you do deserve to know what's actually making it for you.
Let's bring it together. The 8 signs fear is running your financial decisions. 1. You can never feel enough, no matter the number. 2. You avoid looking at your finances directly. 3. You spend impulsively to escape financial anxiety. 4. You undercharge, under-earn, or under-ask. 5. You can't enjoy money, even when you've legitimately earned it. 6. You use money to feel safe, and it never quite works. 7. You constantly compare your financial position to others. 8. Major financial decisions fill you with dread, not excitement. If 3 or more of these resonated, this is worth taking seriously.
Not because something is wrong with you, because something important is running underneath, and it deserves your attention.
I want to hear from you. Which of these signs felt most familiar? Drop the number in the comments, or a word, whatever feels right. Because I suspect there are people watching this who have spent years believing their financial anxiety is just being responsible, who never considered that the vigilance, the avoidance, the grip might be coming from somewhere deeper than financial wisdom. If this landed for you, share it with someone who might need it. You might be giving them the beginning of a very different relationship with money. If you're new here, subscribe. Every week we explore the psychological patterns underneath the decisions we think we're making freely.
Money is one of the places where our deepest fears get to wear the most respectable costumes. The fear that says, save more, check again, don't ask, don't spend, don't trust that this good thing will last. And those costumes are convincing. They convinced you, they convinced the people around you, but you can see through them now. And seeing through them, even just a little, is the beginning of making decisions that are actually yours. Take good care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one. You tell yourself you're just being careful, responsible, smart with money. But somewhere underneath all of that, there's a quiet fear running the show. And it's costing you more than you know. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what a scarcity mindset looks like in real life, not in theory. And you'll have something you can actually do about it, starting today.
Scarcity mindset isn't about being broke. It never was. It's a lens, warped by experience, that makes the world feel like there's never enough. Time, money, love, opportunity. And once that lens is in place, it shapes every single decision you make.
Sign 1. You can't spend without guilt. You buy something you needed, something you could afford. And instead of feeling fine, you feel guilty. The receipt sits in your stomach like a stone. You run the numbers again in your head. Was it too much? Should you return it? Maybe you should return it. This isn't frugality. Frugality is a choice made from clarity. What you're doing is different. It's an automatic reaction, a reflex of not enough that fires before your rational mind even has a chance to weigh in. The guilt isn't protecting you. It's just punishing you for existing in a world that costs money.
Sign 2. You compare yourself constantly and always lose. You scroll through someone's life, and the first thing you feel isn't happiness for them. It's a quiet calculation. Where am I in comparison? It happens fast, almost automatic. Their promotion, their apartment, their vacation. And each one becomes evidence in a case your brain is quietly building against you. Scarcity thinking turns other people's wins into your losses. Not because you're a bad person, but because your mind has been trained to see the world as a pie, and every slice they take feels like one less for you. Abundance doesn't work that way, but scarcity doesn't know that.
Sign 3. You hoard money, opportunities, even relationships. Most people think hoarding means piles of stuff in a cluttered room, but scarcity hoarding looks much quieter. It's the emergency fund that never gets used, even in emergencies. It's holding on to a job you hate because at least it's something. It's keeping people in your life long past when you should have let them go, because what if there's no one better? Hoarding in scarcity isn't greed, it's fear in disguise. The logic goes, if I let go of what I have,
there won't be more. But that's exactly the kind of thinking that keeps the cage locked from the inside.
Sign 4. You struggle to invest in yourself. The course sits in your cart. The coach sends a follow-up email. The gym membership would cost you $40 a month. And every time, every single time, something in you hesitates. Not because you can't afford it, but because spending on yourself feels dangerous, unnecessary, like a luxury you haven't earned yet. Here's what that belief is actually saying. I am not worth the investment. And if you won't invest in yourself, why would life invest in you? Scarcity mindset quietly tells you that growth is for other people, people who already have more than you.
We're halfway through, and if any of this is landing for you, that's actually important information. Most people who have a scarcity mindset don't know they have one. They just think they're realistic, practical, careful. But there's a difference between wisdom and fear wearing wisdom's clothes. The next 4 signs are where it gets even more personal, because they show up not just in how you handle money, but in how you handle your entire life, your relationships, your ambitions, your self-worth. Stay with me. What comes next might be the piece you've been missing.
Sign 5. You feel anxious even when things are okay. Things are fine right now, actually, objectively fine. The bills are paid, nothing is on fire. And yet, there's a low-level hum of dread in your chest that just won't quit. You keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, so you can't enjoy the calm, because part of your brain is certain the calm is a trap. This is one of the most exhausting features of scarcity thinking. It doesn't let you rest, even when rest is available, because it was built in a time when danger was real, and it never got the update that things have changed.
Sign 6. You think in either or, never both. Scarcity thinking is binary. You can be successful or you can be a good parent. You can have money or you can have integrity. You can chase your dream or you can be responsible. Either or, never both, never and. This kind of thinking shuts down options before they're even explored. It filters reality through a narrow slot, and everything that doesn't fit gets dropped. Abundant thinking looks at the same situation and asks, how could both be true? That single question, how could both be true, opens more doors than a year of grinding in the wrong direction ever could.
Sign 7. You self-sabotage when things start going well. Things start going well. The project takes off. The relationship deepens. The money starts moving in the right direction. And then something happens. You pull back. You pick a fight. You make a weird financial decision that undoes the progress. From the outside, it looks like self-destruction. From the inside, it just felt like the right thing to do in the moment. But this is scarcity at its most subtle. If you've never felt like you deserved good things, your nervous system doesn't know how to stay in good things, so it finds a way back to familiar. Familiar, even when familiar hurts.
Sign 8. You believe luck is for other people. Other people get the lucky break. Other people meet the right person at the right time. Other people are just born into the right zip code, the right network, the right moment. You have to grind for everything, and even then, it might not be enough. This belief feels like realism, but it's scarcity talking. Because luck is partially real, but what a scarcity mindset does is make you invisible to it. You stop putting yourself in the rooms where luck happens. You stop reaching, because why reach? And slowly, quietly, you confirm the story you already believed. It's not for people like me. Scarcity mindset has a history. For most of human evolution, scarcity was real, not a perception, a fact. The brain adapted to survive it. Hypervigilance, hoarding, zero-sum thinking, these were features, not bugs. But the brain that kept your ancestors alive in a world of genuine shortage isn't well suited for navigating modern opportunity. The problem is that the mind doesn't automatically update its operating system. If you grew up in an environment where there genuinely wasn't enough, love, money, safety, attention, your nervous system learned the rules of that world, and it kept running them long after the world changed.
Here's what this actually cost you. Not in theory, in real life. You stay in situations too long because leaving feels too risky. You undercharge, underask, underreach, because you've already decided the answer is probably no. You miss opportunities that were genuinely there because your mind was busy scanning for threat instead of scanning for possibility. You're tired, not from doing too much, from bracing, constantly bracing. A scarcity mindset is exhausting to live inside. It is not a personality trait. It is not who you are. It is a survival strategy that is no longer serving the life you're trying to build.
So, what do you actually do? First, notice the moment. When you feel the guilt, the comparison, the either-or lock, name it. This is scarcity talking. That tiny pause between the trigger and the reaction is where everything changes. Second, practice small acts of abundance. Tip a little more. Recommend someone for an opportunity. Spend on something that genuinely improves your life and don't apologize for it. Third, deliberately expose yourself to evidence that contradicts the story. Other people's success is not your subtraction. Their win does not close a door for you. Begin collecting proof that the world is not a zero-sum game. This doesn't change overnight. Anyone who tells you to just think abundantly and your life will transform is selling something. The mind shifts slowly through repeated new experiences that gradually overwrite the old ones. And there's nuance here. Some caution is wisdom. Some saving is genuinely smart. The goal isn't to become reckless. The goal is to be able to choose, to act from clarity, not from fear, to know the difference between a real threat and a ghost your nervous system invented. That's freedom, not the absence of limits, but the ability to see reality clearly and move through it with intention.
Take a moment. Which of these 8 signs hit closest to home? Not the one that was easiest to nod at, the one that made you look away for a second. That one. Because that's where your actual work begins. This isn't about judgment. Scarcity mindset isn't a character flaw. It's a wound that learned to think. And like any wound, it needs attention, not criticism. The fact that you're watching this, that you're asking these questions, that's already evidence of something. Something in you believes a different way of moving through the world is possible. That belief is worth protecting. Let's bring it together. 8 signs of a scarcity mindset. Guilt around spending, constant comparison, hoarding what you have, refusing to invest in yourself, anxiety even when things are fine, either-or thinking, self-sabotage when success arrives, and the deep belief that luck and opportunity are simply not for you. Any one of these alone is worth paying attention to. Several of them together is a pattern that has probably shaped more of your life than you realize. The good news is that patterns can be interrupted. They can be studied. They can, over time and with real intention, be changed. That's not wishful thinking. That's neuroscience. If this video connected with you, drop a comment below. Tell me which sign hit hardest. You'd be surprised how many people are sitting with the exact same one, thinking they're alone in it.
That conversation matters. And if you want to keep going deeper on the psychology of money in the stories we tell ourselves about what we deserve, subscribe, because that's exactly what this channel is built for. Not motivation, understanding. Not hype, clarity. The kind of clarity that actually changes how you make decisions every day. I'll see you in the next one. You're asking the right questions. That already matters. Before you go, I want to leave you with this. The scarcity mindset wasn't something you chose. It was something that was built into you by circumstances that were real and that were hard, and you survived them. You adapted. That adaptation was smart once. The question now is whether it's still serving you, or whether it's protecting you from a danger that no longer exists. You get to decide. Not once, but every day, in small moments that add up. That's where the real shift lives. Not in a single breakthrough, but in 1,000 small choices to believe that there might just be enough.
You check your bank account 3 times before buying a coffee. Not because you can't afford it, you can, but something in your chest tightens anyway. A small voice whispers, "What if it all disappears?" This isn't about being broke. This is about a fear that lives inside you. Quiet, persistent, invisible to everyone around you. A fear of poverty that never got the memo that you're okay now. Today, we're talking about 8 signs that chronic poverty fear is running your life, even when your finances say otherwise.
Sign 1. You can't enjoy money, only protect it. You earn more, you save more, but spending, even on something reasonable, feels like bleeding. Every purchase comes with a quiet guilt, a second guessing, a mental calculation that never really ends. People around you think you're disciplined, but you know the truth. It's not discipline, it's fear dressed up as responsibility. Real financial security should feel like freedom. If it only feels like vigilance, that's the first sign.
Sign 2. You catastrophize small financial setbacks. An unexpected bill, a slow month, a car repair. For most people, annoying. For you, it triggers something deeper. Your mind leaps immediately to worst-case scenarios, losing everything, starting over, ending up with nothing. The emotional response is completely out of proportion to the actual event. That gap between what happened and how it feels, that's where the fear lives.
You feel like a fraud, like it can all be taken away. You've built something real, but somewhere underneath, you don't quite believe it's yours. You're waiting for the moment someone figures out you don't deserve it, or the economy shifts, or bad luck strikes, or you make one wrong move. Psychologists call this imposter syndrome, but in its financial form, it goes deeper. It's not just about talent, it's about survival. It's the feeling that stability is borrowed, not owned.
Sign 4. You tie your entire self-worth to your net worth. Good month, you feel like a capable, worthy human being. Bad month, you feel like a failure, like something is fundamentally wrong with you. When money becomes the measure of your value, not just your comfort, but your worth as a person, that's a sign that fear has been running the show for a long time. Because people who feel genuinely safe don't need their bank balance to tell them who they are. Sign 5. You can't talk about money without anxiety.
Conversations about salaries, prices, budgets, they make you tense. You either avoid them completely, or you over-explain, over-justify, overshare. There's no neutral ground. Money feels loaded, shameful, dangerous. Like saying the wrong thing will reveal something you're not ready to show. That emotional charge around money conversations, it's not random. It usually traces back to early experiences you didn't choose.
Sign 6. You hoard, not because you need to, but because you are terrified not to. Not just money, time, food, options, opportunities. You stockpile because letting go feels like standing on the edge of something. You struggle to say no to extra work, even when you're exhausted. You keep things you don't use because throwing them away feels reckless. Hoarding, in all its forms, is the body's way of building a wall against a danger it still believes is coming, even when it isn't.
You grew up watching money cause pain. Maybe it was constant arguments at the kitchen table, a parent who disappeared under financial stress, a period of real scarcity you carry in your body even now. The specific memory doesn't matter as much as what it taught you. Money is dangerous, unpredictable, and never truly safe. You learned that lesson young, before you had the language for it, and now it runs quietly in the background, shaping decisions you don't even realize you're making. You can never reach enough. You set a goal, you reach it, and instead of relief, you move the goalposts. There's always a bigger number, a safer buffer, a higher threshold before you'll finally let yourself relax. But that moment never comes because the fear isn't about the number. It never was. No amount of money can fix a wound that isn't about money. That's the hardest thing to accept, and the most important.
Recognizing these signs isn't about shame, it's about clarity. The fear made sense once, maybe it even protected you. But if it's still running the show, quietly deciding what you buy, how you feel, what you believe you deserve, then it's worth looking at, not with judgment, with curiosity. Because the goal isn't just financial security, it's the feeling of it, and those are two very different things. If this resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to go deeper, the next video is waiting for you.
What if the exhaustion you've been feeling has nothing to do with sleep? What if you could get 8 hours every night and still wake up feeling completely empty? Today, we're talking about 10 signs that you're exhausted by life itself. Not tired, exhausted. And there is a difference that most people never learn to name.
Life exhaustion doesn't look like someone who can't get out of bed. It looks like someone who gets out of bed every single day, goes to work, answers messages, shows up for everyone, and feels nothing. It looks like functioning perfectly on the outside, while something essential on the inside has gone very, very quiet. If you've been wondering why rest doesn't restore you, this video is for you.
Before we begin, life exhaustion is not depression, though it can precede it. It's not laziness, though it can look like it from the outside. It's what happens when a person has been giving more than they've been receiving for too long. When the gap between who you are and how you're living becomes too wide to ignore. When the body and the soul both send the same quiet signal. Something needs to change.
Sign number 1. Rest doesn't restore you. You sleep and wake up tired. You take a vacation and come home more exhausted than when you left. You have a quiet weekend and Monday arrives and you feel as empty as Friday. This is the most telling sign of life exhaustion. The standard remedies don't work. Because you're not tired from doing too much. You're tired from being too far from what matters. And sleep can't fix that.
Sign number 2. Small things feel enormous. A notification on your phone feels like a threat. A simple decision, what to eat, what to wear, what to reply, feels like an impossible weight. Things that used to be automatic now require effort you don't have. This is called decision fatigue, but at its deepest level, it's something more. It's a nervous system that has been in survival mode for so long that even the smallest demand feels like one thing too many.
Sign number 3. You've stopped looking forward to things. There used to be things that made you want to get up in the morning. A project, a person, a place, a plan. Now, when you try to locate that feeling, it's not there. You can think about good things intellectually. You can know that something should excite you, but the feeling itself doesn't arrive. This is not ingratitude. This is what happens when the body redirects all available energy towards survival and has nothing left for joy. Sign number 4. You feel like a stranger in your own life. You're going through the motions. The job, the relationships, the routines, all continuing. But there's a distance between you and your own experience, like watching your life through glass, like being a very competent actor in a role you didn't audition for. This dissociation is a protective mechanism, the psyche creating distance from a life that has become too far from what you actually need.
Sign number 5. Your body carries what your mind won't process. Chronic tension in the shoulders and neck, a jaw that's always clenched, headaches that come and go, a stomach that's never quite settled, fatigue that no amount of sleep touches. The body is not separate from the exhaustion. It is the exhaustion, made physical. Every unprocessed weight, every suppressed need, every year of going through the motions, the body has been keeping the score.
5 down, 5 to go. And I want to pause here, because if you've been nodding through these first 5 signs, I want you to know something. What you're feeling is real. It's not weakness. It's not ingratitude. It's the honest signal of a life that needs attention. Keep watching, because signs 6 through 10 go deeper into what life exhaustion actually does to who you are.
Sign number 6. You've lost your sense of who you are. What do you want? What do you actually enjoy? What matters to you? Not to your job, not to your family, not to the version of you that everyone needs, but to you.
If these questions produce silence, that silence is a sign. Life exhaustion erodes the self slowly. First, the preferences go, then the passions, then the sense of direction. And eventually, you realize you've been living for everyone but yourself for so long that you're no longer sure there's a self left to live for.
Sign number 7. Kindness from others makes you want to cry. Someone is unexpectedly gentle with you. A stranger is patient. A friend checks in without needing anything back. And something in you breaks open a little because you've been carrying so much for so long with so little genuine care directed at you that the smallest real tenderness cracks the surface of the exhaustion. This is not weakness. This is what happens when someone who has been strong for everyone finally feels safe enough to feel.
Sign number 8. You fantasize about disappearing, not in a harmful way, but in a rest way. You imagine a version of your life where no one can reach you, a cabin somewhere, a place with no notifications, no obligations, no one needing anything from you. Not because you want to leave your life, but because you desperately need to put it down for a moment. This fantasy is not escapism. It's your nervous system's honest description of what it needs. Genuine, uninterrupted rest from being needed.
Sign number 9. You feel guilty for not feeling grateful. You know, intellectually, that your life contains good things. People who love you, things that work, privileges others don't have. And yet, you feel exhausted. And then you feel guilty for feeling exhausted. The guilt compounds the exhaustion. The exhaustion generates more guilt. This spiral is one of life exhaustion's cruelest features. It makes you judge yourself for the very thing that needs compassion.
Sign number 10. Part of you knows something has to change, but you don't have the energy to change it. You can see it, you can name it. You know the relationship, or the job, or the pace, or the pattern is not sustainable. But the knowing and the doing feel infinitely far apart, because the very exhaustion that is caused by the thing you need to change is also what makes changing it feel impossible. This is the cruelest loop of life exhaustion, and also, once named, the beginning of the way out.
Why does life exhaustion happen? Almost always, it builds slowly. It's the accumulation of years of saying yes when you meant no, of prioritizing everyone else's needs over your own, of living at a pace the body never agreed to, of performing a version of yourself that doesn't match who you actually are. Life exhaustion is not a character flaw. It is the honest result of a life lived too far from its own center for too long, without enough genuine rest, nourishment, or permission to simply be.
Here's what life exhaustion costs you over time. It costs you your enthusiasm. The things that once lit you up go dark. It costs you your relationships. You're present, but not really there. It costs you your creativity. The generative part of you goes offline when survival consumes all available resources. It costs you your sense of possibility. When you're this tired, the future looks like more of the same. And most invisibly, it costs you yourself, the version of you that was curious, alive, present, retreating further and further behind the exhaustion.
So what do you do? First, stop trying to rest your way out of it with more sleep. Life exhaustion requires life changes, not more recovery time. Second, find the gap. Where is your actual life most misaligned with what you actually need, not what you should need, what you actually need. Third, give yourself one genuine thing, not a spa day, not a vacation, one real thing that feeds the part of you that has been starving, a conversation that matters, a morning with no obligations, a decision made entirely for yourself. Start there.
Here's what I want you to know. Life exhaustion is reversible. Not quickly, not with a single decision, but it is reversible. The self that went quiet doesn't disappear, it waits. The enthusiasm that went dark doesn't die, it goes dormant. And the path back is not dramatic. It's made of small, consistent movements toward a life that actually fits you, toward things that genuinely restore rather than merely distract, toward honesty about what you need and the courage to slowly begin providing it.
And before we close, one question. When was the last time you did something that asked nothing of you in return? Something that existed purely because it brought you alive, not because it was productive, not because someone needed it, not because it fit into a schedule. If you can't remember, that might be the most important answer in this entire video.
The 10 signs. 1. Rest doesn't restore you. 2. Small things feel enormous. 3. You've stopped looking forward to things. 4. You feel like a stranger in your own life. 5. Your body carries what your mind won't process. 6. You've lost your sense of who you are. 7. Kindness makes you want to cry. 8. You fantasize about disappearing. 9. You feel guilty for not feeling grateful. 10. You know something has to change, but can't move.
Which of these 10 hit you the hardest? Drop the number in the comments. Just the number, no explanation needed. And if this video described something you've been unable to name, share it with someone who might need the words. Subscribe if you want to keep understanding the deeper signals your life is sending you. That's exactly what we explore here. Thank you for watching. The exhaustion you're feeling is real, and you deserve a life that genuinely restores you. See you in the next one.
You wake up Sunday morning, and the first thing you feel is dread. Not because something bad happened, not because you have plans you don't want to keep, just because tomorrow is Monday. That hollow, sinking feeling in your chest that arrives before you've even opened your eyes. You used to love your job, or at least you didn't hate it, but somewhere along the way, something shifted, and now you can't quite remember the last time work felt okay. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you, because that feeling has a name, and it's trying to tell you something important. We're going to walk through 7 signs, real, specific, psychological signs that your job isn't just stressful, it's actually damaging your mental health. Some of these you'll recognize immediately. Others might surprise you because they hide in plain sight, in habits you've normalized, in thoughts you've dismissed, in ways you've quietly changed without noticing. By the end, you'll have a clear picture of what's happening inside you, and more importantly, you'll know what to do about it. So stay with me through all 7, because the last 2 are the ones most people completely miss.
Here's what most people get wrong about work and mental health. They think burnout looks dramatic, someone collapsing, breaking down, unable to function. But that's rarely how it happens. Most of the time, it's quiet. gradual, a slow erosion. You stop caring about things that used to matter. You get shorter with people you love. You feel exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Researchers call this chronic occupational stress, and it's one of the leading hidden causes of depression and anxiety in adults today. It doesn't announce itself. It just accumulates day after day until one morning you wake up and barely recognize yourself.
Sign 1. Your weekend is shrinking. And not because you're busy, it's because dread is eating it from the inside. This isn't normal end-of-weekend tiredness. This is anxiety that arrives Friday evening and grows heavier with every passing hour. By Sunday afternoon, you're not present anymore. You're already at your desk in your mind, rehearsing tomorrow's meetings, bracing for conversations, running through everything that could go wrong. Psychologists call this anticipatory anxiety, and when it consistently bleeds into your personal time, your nervous system never gets a chance to actually rest. Your body is always preparing for a threat that hasn't arrived yet.
Sign 2. You come home and you feel nothing. Not tired exactly, not sad exactly, just flat. Your partner tells you something funny and you produce a smile that doesn't reach anywhere. Your friend invites you out and you feel a kind of hollow indifference. Things that used to bring you small daily joy, music, food, a good conversation, just don't land anymore. This is emotional blunting, and it's one of the more alarming signs because it means the stress isn't staying at work anymore. It's followed you home and started rewiring how your brain processes reward, pleasure, and connection. That's not just exhaustion. That's a warning.
Sign 3. Your body is keeping score, even when your mind tries to ignore it. Chronic headaches that come and go with no clear trigger. Tension that lives permanently in your shoulders and jaw. Stomach problems that appear on workday mornings and vanish on days off. Disrupted sleep. Either you can't fall asleep, or you sleep 10 hours and still wake up depleted. These aren't random. Your body processes psychological stress as a physical threat. It activates your fight or flight response, floods you with cortisol, keeps your muscles braced, your digestion disrupted, your sleep architecture fractured. Your body is telling you what your mind has learned to minimize.
Sign 4. You used to know what you were doing. Now you second-guess everything. You rewrite emails 3 times before sending. You stay quiet in meetings because you're afraid of saying something wrong. You replay conversations afterward, convinced you came across badly. Even when you succeed at something, the relief lasts about 5 minutes, then the anxiety returns. Psychologists have a name for this pattern when it's triggered by a work environment: induced imposter syndrome. It's not a personality flaw you were born with. It's what happens when a workplace consistently signals, through criticism, dismissiveness, or unpredictability, that you are not safe to be yourself.
We're halfway through, and I want to pause for a second, because if you've recognized yourself in any of these signs so far, I need you to hear this. That recognition matters. Most people spend years dismissing these signals, telling themselves everyone feels this way, that they're being too sensitive, that it'll get better on its own. Sometimes it does. Often it doesn't. The next 3 signs are the ones that indicate the stress has moved deeper
into your identity, your relationships, and your sense of future. Pay attention to these. They're the ones people only notice clearly in retrospect.
Sign 5. You're patient at work because you have to be. You smile through the meetings. You tolerate the nonsense. You hold it together. And then you get home and you snap at your partner over dishes. You lose your patience with your kid within 10 minutes of walking through the door. You feel guilty, apologize, and then do it again next week. This isn't a character problem. It's a resource problem. Self-regulation requires mental energy. And if your job is consuming all of it, performing calm under pressure all day, there's simply nothing left by evening. The people closest to you are receiving what the job already used up.
Sign 6. Not ambition. Escape. There's a difference. Ambition is wanting something better because you're growing. Escape is needing out because you're drowning. If you find yourself constantly daydreaming about quitting, not towards something specific, just away from this, that persistent mental exit seeking is significant. Your brain is trying to solve a pain problem it experiences as urgent. And when those fantasies become more vivid than your actual plans, when just disappearing sounds more appealing than any real goal, that's your mind telling you the current situation has become genuinely unsustainable. Not dramatic, not weakness, unsustainable. That distinction matters more than most people realize.
Sign 7, and this one is the deepest. You used to have a self that existed outside your job title, hobbies you actually cared about, a sense of who you were, separate from what you produced. Now, when someone asks what you enjoy, you pause too long. When you have free time, you don't know what to do with it. Work has colonized so much of your mental space, your energy, your identity, your sense of worth, that outside of it, you feel strangely empty. This is identity erosion, and it's one of the most serious long-term consequences of chronic occupational stress. You didn't lose yourself all at once. It happened slowly, then completely.
Let's talk about why this happens, because it's not random and it's not personal weakness. Workplaces that damage mental health tend to share specific features. Chronic unpredictability. You never know what's coming. Lack of autonomy. Your judgment doesn't matter. Chronic under-recognition. Effort disappears without acknowledgement. Social threat. Criticism, dismissiveness, exclusion, or competition. Each of these activates your brain's threat detection system, and when that system runs constantly, not just occasionally, it changes how your brain operates over time. Neural pathways associated with anxiety strengthen. Your default state shifts from safety to vigilance. That's not metaphor. That's measurable neurological change driven by sustained environmental stress.
And here's what that costs you beyond the job itself. Relationships strain because you have nothing left to give. Physical health deteriorates because chronic stress is immunosuppressive. Your sense of possibility narrows. Things that once seemed reachable start feeling distant, then irrelevant. You stop making plans because the future feels too uncertain or too exhausting to imagine. And perhaps most painfully, you start to believe this is just who you are now. Tired, irritable, flat,
disconnected. But it isn't who you are. It's what the environment has done to you. And that distinction between who you are and what's been done to you is where everything begins to change.
So, what do you actually do? First, name it. Stop calling it stress and start calling it what it is, a work environment that is actively harming you. That naming has power. Second, audit your recovery. Are you actually recovering outside of work or just surviving until the next shift? Real recovery requires genuine disconnection. Third, talk to someone, a therapist, a doctor, someone you trust, not to vent, to get real perspective from outside the system you're inside. And fourth, start thinking about options. Not necessarily quitting tomorrow, but options. Because the feeling of having no exit is itself a major driver of the psychological damage. Possibility is medicine.
Now, nuance. Not every difficult job is destroying you. Work can be hard, demanding, even occasionally miserable, and still be fundamentally okay. The difference is in the pattern, the duration, and the direction of travel. Is it getting better or worse? Are you building towards something or just surviving? Do you feel like a person at work or a function? Some jobs are genuinely worth the difficulty for what they're building toward. Others are not. And the honest, courageous act is learning to tell the difference. Not through the story you've been telling yourself for years, but through what your body and behavior are actually showing you.
I want to ask you something, and I mean it genuinely, not as a rhetorical device. When did you last feel okay at work? Not great, not inspired, just okay. If you have to reach back months, or you genuinely can't remember, that's important information. Not a verdict, not a disaster. Information. The signs we walked through today aren't there to frighten you. They're there to make visible what you may have been half seeing for a long time. You already know something isn't right. The question isn't whether to acknowledge it anymore. The question is what you're going to do with that knowledge.
Let's bring it together. 7 signs your job may be slowly damaging your mental health. 1. Weekend dread that starts before the weekend ends. 2. Emotional numbness when you're away from work. 3. Physical symptoms your body keeps sending you. 4. Self-doubt that didn't exist before this job. 5. Irritability bleeding onto the people you love most. 6. Constant fantasies of escape with no destination. 7. Losing the sense of who you are outside of work. None of these alone means everything. Together, especially if you recognized 4, 5, 6, or all 7, they paint a picture that deserves your honest attention.
If this video resonated, I'd genuinely love to know which sign hit closest to home. Drop it in the comments. Not because I'm collecting data, but because sometimes just naming the thing out loud, even in a comment section, is a small act of honesty that matters. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone you've noticed getting quieter, more tired, more unlike themselves, share it with them. They might not have the words yet for what they're experiencing. Sometimes, the most useful thing you can offer someone is a mirror. Subscribe if you want more of this. New video every week.
Work takes up too much of our lives to be silently destroying them.
You deserve a job that doesn't cost you your health, your relationships, or your sense of self. That's not a luxury, that's a baseline. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. Awareness is the beginning of everything. You saw the signs today. You gave them names. That already changes something. Take care of yourself this week, not as a cliché, but as a real instruction. Do one thing that reminds you who you are outside of that job. It matters more than you think. I'll see you in the next one.
You wake up tired. You went to bed tired. And somewhere in between, you did everything you were supposed to do. You worked. You answered. You showed up. But something is off. Not broken, not dramatic, just quietly, persistently wrong in a way you can't quite name. Maybe you've been telling yourself it's just a rough patch. Maybe you've been waiting for the weekend, the vacation, the next thing, thinking that's when you'll finally feel like yourself again. But what if it's not a rough patch? What if your body has already been sending you signals and you've been too busy to hear them?
Stay with me, because sign number 4 is the one most people completely miss. It doesn't look like exhaustion at all. In fact, it looks like you're fine, maybe even productive. You're moving, responding, doing things. But internally, your nervous system is in full alarm mode, quietly burning through its last reserves. And by the time most people recognize it, they've been running on fumes for months. We'll get there. But first, let me give you the context that makes all 8 of these signs make sense. Because once you understand what's actually happening inside your body, everything changes. Burnout isn't just being tired. The World Health Organization classifies it as a state of chronic stress that has not been successfully managed. And here's what makes it dangerous. It doesn't arrive all at once. It builds quietly over months or years. The phrase, "your body keeps score," comes from one of the most important books in modern psychology. The idea is simple and devastating. Even when your mind pushes through, your body is keeping a running tally. Every skipped meal, every sleepless night, every swallowed emotion, it's all being recorded. And eventually, it shows up in your skin, your stomach, your eyes, and the way you respond to people you love.
Sign 1. You're exhausted, no matter how much you sleep. The first sign sounds obvious, but it's more specific than you think. This isn't "I stayed up too late" tired. This is bone-deep fatigue that doesn't lift after a full night of sleep. Is that chronic stress dysregulates your HPA axis, the system controlling your cortisol response. Your cortisol, which should peak in the morning and give you energy, starts getting blunted. The signal is scrambled. Your body no longer knows how to wake up properly. If rest doesn't restore you, that's not laziness. That's your nervous system asking for help.
Sign 2. Small things feel unbearably heavy. You used to handle a lot. You were the capable one. But lately, someone sends a slightly irritating email, and you feel a disproportionate wave of frustration. A minor inconvenience, a canceled plan, a slow connection, and something in you wants to fall apart. This is emotional dysregulation, and it's one of the clearest signs of nervous system exhaustion. When your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, is running on low resources, your amygdala takes over, the emotional alarm center. And it doesn't do nuance, it just fires. You're not becoming a worse person. You're running a complex human system on a nearly empty battery.
Sign 3. You've gone emotionally numb. And then sometimes it flips. Instead of everything feeling too much, nothing feels like anything at all. You used to care deeply about your work, your relationships, your goals. And now you look at those same things and feel distance, like watching your own life through glass. This is called depersonalization, one of the 3 clinical markers of burnout, alongside exhaustion and reduced efficacy. Your brain, overwhelmed by sustained stress, turns down the emotional volume to protect itself. It's a coping mechanism, and a deeply uncomfortable one, because numbness isn't peace. It's your psyche pulling the emergency brake. If things that used to matter don't reach you anymore, this is why.
Sign 4. You can't stop working, but nothing gets done. Here's the one I warned you about. This sign doesn't look like burnout. It looks like effort. You're busy all day, always doing something. But at the end of the day, you genuinely can't identify what you accomplished. You were in motion, but you weren't moving forward. Chronic stress impairs the prefrontal cortex's executive function. Your brain loses its ability to prioritize, sequence, and sustain attention. So it defaults to low-effort busy work, checking messages, reorganizing things, starting tasks without finishing them. The appearance of productivity without the substance of it. You're spending energy, feeling the stress of working, but not getting the reward of actual progress. That's cognitive burnout. You're spinning.
4 down, 4 to go. And the ones coming up get more physical. Because burnout doesn't stay in your mind. It moves into your body in ways that can look like completely unrelated health problems. Unexplained headaches, digestive issues with no clear cause, a lowered immune system that catches every cold, a tight chest your doctor says is fine. If you've been to the doctor lately with vague, hard-to-explain symptoms, keep watching. Because the connection between what you've been carrying emotionally and what your body is now presenting physically is not a coincidence. It's a system talking to itself, and it's been trying to tell you something.
Sign 5. Your body is breaking down in strange ways. Headaches that don't respond to painkillers, digestive problems that come and go with no clear cause, skin flare-ups. You catch every cold and take weeks to recover from things that used to knock you out for 2 days. This is your body metabolizing chronic stress. Sustained high cortisol suppresses immune function, disrupts gut motility, increases inflammation, and tightens the fascia around your chest and shoulders. It's not psychosomatic in the dismissive sense. It's psychobiological in the most literal sense. Your mind and body are one system. What exhausts the mind taxes the body. If your body keeps presenting symptoms with no clean medical explanation, stress might be looking for somewhere to live.
Sign 6. You've stopped being able to enjoy things. You used to have things that recharged you. A walk, a meal with someone you love, music, something. But now you do those things and feel nothing. Or worse, you feel guilty for not feeling anything. You think, I should be enjoying this. What's wrong with me? What's happening is called anhedonia, a reduced ability to experience pleasure, directly linked to dopamine dysregulation
caused by chronic stress. The reward pathways that normally activate in response to enjoyable things are suppressed. The experience that should feel good doesn't reach the part of you that registers good. This is your brain waving a red flag. The system is saying, I've forgotten what normal feels like.
Sign 7. You're withdrawing from people. You used to return calls. You used to make plans and want to follow through. But lately, the idea of being on for another human being, even one you love, feels genuinely exhausting. So you cancel. You go quiet. You tell yourself you just need a little more time alone. Social withdrawal in burnout is both a symptom and a reinforcing loop. Stress depletes the social engagement system, the part of your nervous system that makes connection feel safe and rewarding. So you retreat. But isolation removes exactly what helps regulate a stressed nervous system: co-regulation with other humans. You don't withdraw because you don't care. You withdraw because you're empty.
Sign 8. You've lost your sense of who you are. This is the deepest one, and often the last people notice, because it happens so gradually. You used to have opinions, preferences, a sense of what you wanted, what mattered, what kind of person you were. But now when someone asks, "What do you want?" there's just silence where the answer should be. Identity erosion happens when you've been performing and producing and surviving for so long that you've lost contact with your own interiority. You've been so focused on output, on meeting demands, on keeping everything running, that the question, "Who am I?" separate from what I do, has no clear answer anymore. This isn't permanent, but it needs more than rest to heal.
Here's what connects all 8 signs. They're not character flaws. They're not evidence that you're weak or failing or broken. They're adaptive responses. Your nervous system, your brain, your body, they were trying to keep you functional under impossible conditions. The exhaustion, the numbness, the withdrawal, the fog, all of it made sense in context. The problem is that those emergency adaptations were never meant to be permanent. They were meant to get you through a crisis, not become your baseline. Burnout research tells us the same thing consistently. Recovery is possible, but it requires more than a weekend off. It requires understanding what drove the system to its limit in the first place.
I want to say something directly. If you recognized yourself in 4, 5, 6 of these signs, please don't minimize that. There's a specific kind of pain that comes from functioning well enough that no one around you knows something is wrong. From being the person who handles things, who stays professional, who doesn't want to be dramatic, while quietly feeling like you're disappearing inside your own life. That's real. It counts. And you don't have to be completely falling apart to deserve support, rest, and recovery. The fact that you're still showing up doesn't mean nothing is wrong. Sometimes it means you've been holding on too long.
Recovery from burnout isn't one action, but there are starting points. The first is acknowledgement, naming what's happening without judgment. The second is reduction, not everything, but something, even one thing you can temporarily put down. Sleep, nutrition, and movement are foundational, not because they solve burnout, but because they restore biological capacity that stress has depleted. And connection, reaching toward another person, a therapist, a community, re-engages the social nervous system that isolation has suppressed. But the deepest work is boundary work, understanding why the system was pushed past its limits and what needs to change structurally, not just managed better, so it doesn't happen again.
Here's what the research also shows. The nervous system is remarkably plastic. Recovery from burnout, real recovery, is possible. People do it. It takes time, and it takes honesty about what needs to change. But the capacity for restoration is built into your biology. The signs we talked about today are not permanent features. They're messages, and messages can be responded to. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending recovery is easy. It's about knowing that the very system sending you distress signals is the same system that knows how to heal. You've recovered from hard things before. The biology that got you here can also get you out.
I want to leave you with one question, not to answer out loud, just to sit with. Of the 8 signs today, which one have you been explaining away the longest? Not the one that surprised you, the one you already knew about, somewhere quiet, and kept finding a reason to ignore. That's probably the one worth starting with. Not because it's the biggest, but because the energy you've been spending to not look at it is energy your system desperately needs back. You don't have to fix everything tonight. You just have to stop pretending that one thing isn't there.
Let's bring it together. 8 signs your body is already keeping score. 1. Rest doesn't restore you. 2. Small things feel unbearably heavy. 3. You've gone emotionally numb. 4. You're busy but not moving. 5. Your body is breaking down in quiet ways. 6. You've stopped enjoying things. 7. You're withdrawing from people. And 8. You've lost your sense of who you are. Any 3 or more of these consistently, that's not a phase. That's not just stress. That's a system that has been carrying more than it was designed to carry alone, for longer than it should have had to.
If this video reached something in you, share it with someone who needs it, not as a diagnosis, just as a conversation starter. Sometimes the most important thing is knowing you're not the only one. Drop a comment below with the one sign that hit closest to home. I read them, and your answer might be exactly what someone else needs to see today. If you haven't subscribed yet, we go deep here. Psychology, emotional patterns, the hidden ways our minds shape our lives and our relationship with everything that matters. New video every week. The subscribe button is right there, and it genuinely helps more people find this.
Your body has been keeping score this whole time. Not to punish you, not to betray you, to protect you. To say, I'm here, I'm trying, and I need something different from you now. The question isn't whether you're burned out. The question is whether you're willing to listen. And if you made it to the end of this video, I think part of you already is. That part deserves your attention. Give it something real. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.